on Thursday night that this is still the path forward?
Yeah, here's the reality. I mean, we have two choices. It is very clear. You can either go with Donald Trump, who gave us a Supreme Court that is continuing to do harm, who absolutely plans to put additional Supreme Court justices on the bench, as well as install other idiotic judges such as Eileen Cannon, such as Cass Merrick down in Texas, who handled the mifepristone case. Like, if that's the America that you want, then absolutely go vote for Donald Trump. But if you want an America in which repro is a reality, if you want an America where you can love whoever you want to love, that is going to be Joe Biden's America. And let's talk about the fact that this fool wanted to tell us about black jobs, right? Like, let's be clear. Donald Trump does not understand black culture. What he's doing is playing in our faces, and he's got people that he wants to sit up there and throw out as little tokens and be like, hey, look at my black friend. That's essentially what he does. But at the end of the day, I need people to choose themselves. If everybody is saying that the economy is number one, then please tell me why you would vote for Donald Trump when he refused to answer any economic question. He has no plan. He never has had a plan. And the only plan that he plans to follow is the manifesto that's been laid out in Project 2025 that believes that DEI is the end of us. So that means that people like me, people of color, women, that's a problem for them. They want to excommunicate us. Like, they are trying to give the keys over to the white supremacists, as we also saw the Supreme Court do earlier this week as it relates to the insurrectionists. Like, I need people to wake up. I know that they say that they don't want us to be woke, and this is exactly why. Because they want us to be asleep while they continue to take our rights, while they continue to reform our courts, while they continue to say that we don't want you to have access to the ballot box. This is about all of us. So if people want to be honest with themselves, what they need to do is look at which team delivers for you. If you are happy about the dollars that are flowing into your community because of the infrastructure, because of the CHIPS and Science bill, because of the reduction in the cost of insulin that was due to the Democrats, House Democrats, Senate Democrats, and this Democratic administration. It is time to choose yourself and figure out which team is riding with you. If you want more of the chaos that we have seen out of this House, that's all you're going to get times 3 if you decide to go with Donald Trump, because he's loud and wrong.
Democratic Representative Jasmine Crockett bringing it this morning. Thank you for being with us as always. We always appreciate the time that you take for us. Another hour of Velshi starts right now. Hey, good morning. It's Saturday, June 29th. This has already been by far the strangest and most unprecedented election cycle in recent memory, and then this week happened. President Joe Biden turned in an alarmingly weak performance at the first presidential debate of the season, and that news cycle, the news cycle has since been dominated by that, not by the Supreme Court's decision to extend its session past June for only the 4th time in nearly 40 years to further delay criminal cases against Donald Trump from proceeding before Election Day, and not by the court's overturning of 4 decades of precedent on Friday in a ruling that many court watchers are calling a blatant, dangerous judicial power grab. Instead, the news cycle has been dominated by calls for Joe Biden to drop out of the presidential race, including from the editorial board of the New York Times and the leaders of The Economist, and dispatches from the panicked inner circles of the Democratic Party scrambling to come up with a backup plan. But so far, anyway, no elected or party leader has gone on the record suggesting that Joe Biden be dropped from the Democratic ticket. One of the country's most popular Democrats, the former President Barack Obama, who himself delivered a poor performance in his run for a second term, stepped in with a reminder that performance in a debate is not the same thing as performance as president. Quote, bad debate nights happen, trust me, I know. But this election is still a choice between someone who has fought for ordinary folks his entire life and someone who cares only about himself, end quote. Republicans and Biden critics are gloating. Most Democrats are disappointed, alarmed even, that this debate and this election is becoming a referendum on Joe Biden when Donald Trump was standing across the stage from him and will appear as the other choice on the ballot in November. Now, it's true, pardon me, it's true. Biden stumbled. He lost his train of thought. He looked confused at times on that stage on Thursday night. That's all true. Those of you who don't want to admit that that's true are fooling yourselves. But Donald Trump lied. He honored the insurrectionists who attacked the Capitol. And by the way, he's been impeached twice, convicted on 34 felony counts, faces 3 other criminal prosecutions, and has been held liable for business fraud and for sexual assault and defamation. But Biden was off his game. That's the thing people are talking about. Donald Trump's legacy involves the radical transformation of the Supreme Court. In just the past few years, the conservative supermajority that he ushered in has rolled back reproductive rights across the country, gutted affirmative action, and has helped him indefinitely delay his federal election interference trial. The 6 conservatives on the Supreme Court, half of whom were appointed by Donald Trump, just handed down another devastating decision yesterday that will have profound consequences for democracy and for all of us. In overruling the decades-old precedent, which we know as the Chevron doctrine, the court has essentially hobbled federal agencies' regulatory powers, which is a major win for corporate interests and for industry, and is a judicial power grab. This is a major victory for the conservative cause that will drastically curb the independent oversight powers of our executive agencies. It's a critical decision that will help Republicans get the ball moving on Project 2025, which, as you know, is the comprehensive right-wing manifesto that outlines numerous plans for the next conservative administration, presumably a Donald Trump administration. One of Project 2025's stated goals is, quote, dismantle the administrative state. Now, I'm going to take a deeper dive into that specific Supreme Court decision later in the show. I talked about it last hour, but there's so much in this that we needed to be talking about, but we were talking about a debate performance. The existence of Project 2025 and the 920-page playbook outlining its plans should be a reminder to everyone that this is not about Biden versus Trump or about a debate. It's about the administration that they will lead, the presidency they will lead, and their radically different visions for the future of our country. And while we are all fretting about the debate, validly, I admit, it is worth reminding everyone of the company that Trump keeps, since more than a handful of his advisors and allies have found themselves at odds with the law. On Monday, Steve Bannon, a former Trump White House aide, will arrive at prison after the Supreme Court rejected his plea to remain free while his appeal is pending. 2 years ago, a jury found him guilty of 2 counts of criminal contempt charges for refusing to comply with subpoenas that were issued by the January 6th committee. Trump's former advisor, Peter Navarro, is also in prison for similarly defying a subpoena from the January 6th committee. Joe Biden clearly is not the same man that he was 4 years ago. I will contend that. Actually, I don't have to, because he did on Friday. He's older. He's slower. It was painfully clear during the debate, although, remember, he was, as I mentioned, never a good debater. But Donald Trump is also not the same person that he was during the last election cycle. He's way worse. He's become more brazen, more outlandish, more racist, more xenophobic. He remains unrepentant for any of the chaos that he has caused or the crimes for which he has been convicted or the attempt to overturn the election of 2020. This election cannot be allowed to become a referendum about Joe Biden when Donald Trump continues to undermine democracy at every opportunity. Donald Trump is unfit for office, and of that, there is no debate. Joining me now is the former Democratic Senator Doug Jones of Alabama. He's also a former United States Attorney for the Northern District of Alabama and the author of the book Bending Toward Justice. Ruth Ben-Ghiat is a professor of history at NYU, the author of the Lucid newsletter Following Threats to Democracy, and the author of the book Strongmen, Mussolini to the President. Good morning to both of you. Ruth, you had a very quick response on social media to the debate, and a reminder that some of us forget, and that is that the ensuing discussion about the debate plays very well into Donald Trump's hands and what you call the authoritarian playbook. Tell me more about what you meant.
So this wasn't a debate. In the sense that a debate is when two candidates show up to educate the people with accurate information about their agendas so that voters can make a choice. Donald Trump showed up to spew propaganda, turn this into a propaganda show, and that was his information warfare agenda all along. And the problem is, because there was no live fact-checking, which was a grievous error on the part of CNN, whoever was there, it could be you could substitute Biden for somebody you like better. That person would have been forced into a defensive position, refuting all of the lies, because this was a fire hose of falsehood, as we say in propaganda studies, coming from Trump, and thus would have had to spend his time in defensive position rather than arguing about his case to the American people and focusing on his achievements. So the whole framing of the quote debate is wrong, and it doesn't. We can't have this. Is like the old forms of election politics are continuing, but when you have an authoritarian in the mix, they don't work anymore.
Senator, you know from experience what it's like to run against a volatile, intellectually dishonest, populist candidate. Let's talk about how you. And I take Ruth's point, but for the moment, until we have a better word, we'll refer to it as the debate. How difficult it is to go up against an unrestrained candidate who constantly lies, because that's right. I think it's a moderator's job to try and keep honesty in the debate, but that's very difficult when you run against somebody like Donald Trump.
Yeah, it's almost impossible because they are dominating and controlling. And when you are against an opponent who is completely untethered to the truth, then they can say and do anything and can really be bullying and dominating. And I think about the only thing you could do is just simply look over there and say, that's a damn lie. That is a lie once again. Let me tell you about the Biden administration or whatever. But the fact of the matter is, Allie, and I think you said it in your opening monologue very, very well, the presidency is about much more than a single debate. It is about much more than simply a 2-minute answer on a debate stage or a 1-minute response. It's about judgment. It's about character. It's about deliberation. It's about putting a team, as you noted, an administration together that people have confidence in, and not a bunch of wackos like we have seen in the past with Donald Trump and more likely to see again. That's what this is about. And I think going forward, people are going to see that. Yeah, you're going to see Joe Biden's debate performance over and over again. But I think as we go forward, you're going to see a lot coming out about what Donald Trump actually said and did. And it is somewhat frightening for the American people when the Republican Party, unlike Democrats, who are openly talking about the fact that Biden had a bad night, that's the way